All right, we're live. This is Nourish, Heal, and Thrive. This is our fourth interview. I'm really excited to bring you David Daniels. David Daniels and I have been friends for a really long time, and he's always supported everything I've done. I'm so grateful for it. And the really cool thing about having David Daniels here is he has been on a weight loss journey himself. He's lost a lot of weight over the last few years. I can't even do it justice, so I'm just gonna let him tell you the story. Um, just start with David. Thank you for being here, first of all, and why
Well,
don't
I'm
you
happy
share?
to be here, Derek.
Yeah, so tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what you do, and then we'll get a little deeper into the conversation.
I'm David Daniels. I'm 48 years old. I live in the Los Angeles area with my family. I've known, like Derek said, I've known Derek since, gosh, I know of Derek probably since like junior high and Hebrew school. And then I knew him in high school and we caddied a country club together and we went to the same temple, went to Hebrew school. And then I really became friends with Derek when we were in college, went to college together. And so I've been friends with Derek ever since. That was a really long time ago. So I've probably known Derek for probably like 35 years, maybe, or something. We're getting old. Derek just turned the big 50s. He's getting pretty old. I'm right behind. I'm turning 49 this summer. But yeah, so I live in Los Angeles. I have two kids. Um, yeah, and for the longest time, I've always been doing different diets, trying different things to try to lose weight. I was always overweight and seemed like I didn't eat like horribly, but I always be on whatever the next diet was. And I tried everything from like the Atkins diet and low carb and no sugar to keto to going to a doctor where I was on medication, not the current types of not the Ozempic, not the GL1 kind of stuff, but it was called a phentermine, which is like an appetite suppressant, and doing all that kind of stuff, medically treated. And I'd always lose a lot of weight, but then you stop doing it and gain it back. And I guess it was like during the pandemic and during COVID, and um, you know, I talked to some people about uh, gastric bypass surgery. And at first I always thought, oh, I would never get surgery and do all that. And then, I think we're at like a party for my of a when people were starting meeting again, my son was in preschool and one of the moms had done it, and I was talking to her, and she was telling me all about it. And she had done it through Kaiser, and we had thought about switching to Kaiser, but you always hear these horror stories about Kaiser, and but everybody we talked to who actually belonged to Kaiser had like all these great things to say about Kaiser, and we never done an HMO before, a program like that. So my wife and I were just like, should we switch to Kaiser? Should we not switch to Kaiser? And we had all these things coming up, and it took an incident with my son where I had to take him to the emergency room in the middle of the night, essentially because, to make a long story short, he was constipated. But by the time they were done with all the tests and x-rays and ultrasounds, it cost us almost $4,000 in fees, even though we had really good, Blue Cross, Blue Shield insurance. So at that point, we're like, let's try Kaiser for a year. We were planning on having another baby. I wanted to, I was thinking about getting this gastric bypass surgery. And we're like, let's do that and see where we're at with everything and try the Kaiser. So we switched, and immediately like we did our checkups, and I had asked my general practitioner, can I get a referral to do gastric bypass surgery? Because I had just, I had two young kids, and I was just becoming, I was tipping the scales probably around 350, 355 pounds. And even though I was working out, especially during COVID, I was doing Peloton every day. It just wasn't going down. And, you know, from, not being able to like be comfortable sitting on an airplane or even going to like a theme park and not being able to go on some of the rides to like snoring heavily at night. I probably was like in the early stages of sleep apnea, waking up with headaches in the morning and various other things. I'm like, it was time to make a change and go into, I'm like, well, this seems like a viable option. And they're like, okay, we'll recommend you for the program. And the program at Kaiser, before you get the gastric bypass surgery, you have to go to 10 weeks of classes, um, where every week you meet with a group and of other people who are interested in gastric bypass or are candidates for it. And you have to go through all the classes where they talk about everything from your mental health to like what actually is new to the surgery, to nutrition, to your plan afterwards. And they really go specifically into what your diet plan will be after you have the surgery. And there's phases from the time you have the surgery throughout the whole first year and then beyond that. So I went through the 10 weeks of classes, and it was something I was really interested in. And I did all the, you know, physical tests, blood work, chest x-rays. You have to meet with people, different doctors to have a psychological evaluation because, it is, a lot of it is like mental and everything you have to go through. And I passed all that stuff. So, I decided there was two choices of doing the surgery. There was a gastric sleeve and a gastric bypass. And I don't have diagrams to show you, but the sleeve basically they, trim off your stomach and make it like one, kind of path, and they reduce the size of your stomach and leave the rest of the stomach kind of die out there. The gastric bypass is they actually, bypass, they make your stomach into a small little pouch, and, they redirect your bypass, your digestive system. And they said that was the gold standard. I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go with the gold standard of it. So, I got the surgery done and I went through the recovery process, and I decided, I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to follow the plan strictly for the first year, every phase, and do everything. And I really was. I followed it strictly. I did the exercise, I did the eating plan, I ate my protein, ate the portions and everything. And along the way, I was able to figure out, like, they had recipes and stuff, but figure out my own recipes, figure out things I like. And it really was a great decision because, it really, I could go into tons more detail, but it really, I didn't have any complications at all. People go into it. I think people who have complications, they create a lot of complications for themselves, or they find ways of cheating, or they find ways, of finding loopholes so they could eat things they want. And, there was a big threat that they gave us, that there's something called dumping, where if your body over absorbs sugar or things you shouldn't eat, you're gonna like feel it and be sick in every way you can, every hole in your body. And I just like feared that. So I'm like, I'm never cheating because I don't want to have this dumping syndrome, because I talked to some people who had it and it wasn't pleasant. So whatever, I followed it strictly, and I lost 165 pounds in the course of doing it. And it really was the best decision I ever made. And I won't say like it was easy, because nothing is easy, and you really have to work. It wasn't a cop out. Like, you really have to follow the plan. You really have to keep track. You really have to like take care of yourself. You have to take, all these. There's a lot of things that you'll hear along the way about side effects, or losing your hair, or losing your teeth, or whatever. And I didn't have any of that because I followed exactly what they told me. I took my vitamins, I took my calcium, I did all the stuff. And I was really adamant about doing that. I drank enough water. I, exercise. I, walked and did all this stuff. And, and I didn't lull in recovery. Like, I only, it took me only like, some people like take, feel like take months, but it's like, again, it's all mental. It's in your head. Like, I only took like a week off of work, and mind you, I was working from home at that point because of the pandemic, but there's no reason just to sit around and like lull in like saying I'm in pain, because really I only had any kind of pain for 3 days, and it wasn't pain from the surgery. It's pain. It's gas pains that are inside you, because they, once they make your new stomach, they put gas in to like blow it to make sure there's no leaks in it, and you have to get rid of that gas. And that's really by like walking, like when you're in the hospital, they make you walk around the hospital, and you could feel it, whether it's coming out of your mouth or your butt, the gas coming out of you. So after 3 days, I wasn't in any pain anymore. I was a little like tired, and you have to get used to, the first few days, like the first 2 weeks, you're only having liquids and stuff, but really it's all you can eat, because you get full pretty quickly. And then if you do the diet correctly, you slowly have phases from, the first few days is just like liquids and broth, and then you go to like protein shakes, And then then the next like 2 weeks is you add in pureed foods, which sounds disgusting at first, but there's some great recipes you can make if you do the research. Like the biggest thing was called the ricotta bake, and it was kind of like a little bit of ricotta cheese, a little bit of tomato sauce, garlic and whatever. And it tastes like right now, like if you're eating normally, like it sounds like whatever, but like it's the best thing you'll ever eat at the time after eating only like protein shakes for 2 weeks. So, you slowly build yourself back up to eating solid foods again. And once you eat solid foods, then it's eating the right solid foods. And uh, there's a lot to it that, we can go on and on and on, like the details, but, my biggest suggestion is, or my biggest takeaway that you should all take is if you're interested in it, it's not for everybody, but definitely find a program where they give you the education you need to make the right decision if you want to do the surgery, and they make a plan for you and follow that plan like strictly. And there's a lot of things like, do you have to give things up? Yes. Like, uh, and I'll never say never, never, but like in the plan they say you can't drink anymore. And I wasn't a big drinker to begin with, but like I have it, every once in a while I'd have a drink, but because your body absorbs things much faster, like you'll get drunk very quickly, and it's just not good for you, especially for that first year for the healing. If you're a smoker, absolutely you can't smoke because the smoking affects the healing. Um, you're not supposed to drink carbonated beverages anymore because the gas in there not only fills you up, but it's like it's just not good for your new stomach. But the good thing, I had given up soda 2 years before that, so that wasn't a big deal for me. Um, I don't eat anything with sugar added. Now that every once in a while I have a taste of something, but I'll never eat like a full-on dessert or whatever. But I found alternatives, and I found recipes where I can have sweets and stuff that don't have sugar, that are great. You find ways to adjust your life and live if you want to. If you want to, it's a new lifestyle, and it's a new way of living. You just have to decide, is my health more important, or is having a piece of cake more important, or is you know drinking a bottle of wine more important? You have to just make that decision for yourself. And I choose to live a healthy lifestyle and probably add a few years onto my life.
That's a great choice, and that's such a great story. I didn't know some of that. I didn't even realize you were that heavy at
Well, yeah, people always
that.
be like, I didn't realize you were that heavy. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, I wasn't the heaviest person in my in my class, but yeah, I wore
So
it well. But like now I look at picture, like I can't share a picture here, but maybe you could share a picture at some point. Like there's definitely a difference in my look. I
yeah.
went from a wearing, like I was pushing, I wore a size like triple extra large in men's, and sometimes that was tight depending. And now I wear like a medium to a large. And like,
Well, you look great. And
thanks.
one thing that I know about you from knowing you for so long is when you make a decision, you go all in. Like I remember even in the past when you would try like the Atkins diet or one of those diets, you were all in. You did everything by the book. And I think maybe after doing it for maybe a year or two or however long you would commit to it, you gave up because it wasn't maybe not working or maybe it was
Yeah.
too much or something. But what my question is, when did you, I know you said you were thinking about it for a while, but when did you decide the gastric bypass is what you were going to do?
I think like when I had talked to a few people that like had it, like it was always like I never had to have surgery or anything before. So like going to surgery was a little bit scary, but like when I saw the results some people were having from it, um, and then and I think also just being home during the pandemic, and there's a lot of like things like, oh, I could do this or I could do, that different things that you had time to think, and you weren't, I was still working obviously in my job, but it wasn't driving to work every day. It wasn't coming home. So I felt like I had the time to make a lifestyle change, and I wasn't like busy, even though busy with kids and everything, but still life was different during that time period. So it was like, oh, I could do this, and I had time to exercise, and I had, it was a good time to do it.
Okay, that's great. I
And
mean,
then
was there no like an aha moment that you had that said, this is the path I need, or
um, I think in just like talking with my wife and just looking at like I was sick of going on diets, and I wanted to make like a permanent lifestyle change.
so talk about your permanent lifestyle change now. I know you talked a little bit about it, but do you find it difficult? Is it a challenge, or is it a lifestyle and it's just normal to you?
No, I'm just like it's just like normal now. And and I found and it's interesting on the Facebook groups, like how I said it's very strict. People like be like, I miss eating whatever. And people like have it in moderation. And like definitely the first year I'm like, no, like I feel like if you're gonna eat the wrong thing, even in moderation, you're gonna be like, oh, I had it this time, so I can eat more of it next time. And like some days I'll have a taste of something or whatever, but for the most part, I like eat what I could eat. If I eat too much, I feel it. I don't feel good, and that's like a definitely an advantage to having like. And they always say, don't think your stomach is a solution. Think of it as a tool. That's definitely a tool. You could, if because I know if I start to feel full, like I'm gonna like stop eating. Um, I'm gonna stop eating to so I don't feel sick. And it's also interesting too because and I can't give you what foods it is, but there's some things where I could like eat a lot of it, and there's some things where I take a few bites and I'm like, okay, I'm full, I'm done, and it just depends on what it is. But the good thing is like I eat a lot more protein now. In like even in order, you're supposed to eat your food, right? You eat your protein, and then you eat your like healthy carbs like vegetables and stuff, and then if you have any like rice or quinoa or whatever, um, then you're usually full enough that you don't even get to that part of your plate. But you know, there's never not eating rice again. I don't if I eat breads and stuff, I've gone to eat like a multi-grain bread or gluten-free bread, even though I don't have a gluten allergy. Like I'll do that, or like if I want pizza, I get like a cauliflower crust or gluten-free pizza. But I've learned to do that kind of stuff, and you know, it's it's fine. It's like I've gotten used to it, and eventually it's like you don't see the difference. I'm sure like real pizza crust would taste like so much better, but I found the good ones and I found what I like, what I don't like, and I felt like even in all the gluten-free and multi-grain and cauliflower, like it's even gotten the more as times go by, there's better products that come out too, and it's gotten better. So
Right. Cool. Yeah, this is all great information. I know you said the biggest takeaway would be, be educated before you do something
for
like
sure.
this. Is
And
there anything else you would recommend or any
I
other?
think it is like it's doing your research, find out what works for you. Because like I said, it doesn't work for everybody. There's there's you know I wouldn't say side effects, but there's certain things that like you have to learn to live with. And um, but there's also some people just can't commit to living a different lifestyle, or they're not mentally ready for it either. Um, and there is a lot of like even with me, like you you never stop not thinking like you're a fat person. You don't it's once you look at yourself in the mirror and sometimes you don't recognize yourself anymore, which is a good and a bad thing, like is that me? And like, but it's even funny too, like dealing with, especially like I said, I did it during the pandemic. So when I started going back to work, there'd be people, they'd look at you like, I know you, but who are you? And then they realize it's you because they never saw you like that. So it still happens all the time. So there's just a lot you have to get used to, and you have to you have to really decide if you're willing to make the commitment fully, and don't do it like half-assed. Because if you do it half-assed, that's when you can gain your weight back, or you can lose your hair and you can get sick from it. But that's for people don't who try to find the easy way out, or don't take their vitamins and don't take their calcium citrate chewies every day. Your body is definitely different. It absorbs nutrients and vitamins differently, and you need to know about all that before you go into it, because if you don't, you're not going to be healthy. But if you do, like my blood work right now, like I have to go and get blood work, and like my blood work is like perfect, and for the first 2 years I was slightly anemic, but that is normal till your body, gets used to itself. It's still adjusting. But like I just had my blood work done, and I have hypothyroid, all this, everything. My cholesterol is normal, my triglycerides are normal, my liver panels are great, which were always like super high before. Everything is really good. So, you know, my wife said, even she said, from the day I got my surgery, I stopped snoring. I don't snore at all anymore. Like I haven't snored since that, which is great, because like I said, sometimes I wake up with headaches, or like I'd snore so bad that my uvula would be swollen, or I have a sore throat in the morning. So um, if you have a snoring issue, if you have sleep apnea, this is a really good solution for that. Also, people who are diabetic, it helps. Type 2 diabetic, your diabetes will go away from it. So there's a lot of good reasons to get the surgery, you know.
Wow.
But there's a lot of things, like I said in the class, there's a lot of things to consider too. Like for women, um, I don't think they can force you to, but women, they make you get an IUD afterwards, because it it's if you want to get, or if you want to get pregnant, there's things you there's things you should learn before. If you want to try to have a baby, for some people are so heavy they can't get pregnant anyways, and some people want to do this so they can have a baby. But you need to be able to put that off for a few years, because your body, when in the first few years, when it's readjusting and getting back to alignment, um, your body can't nourish a baby. So people get pregnant and there's issues and stuff. So, there's things you need to know and consider and take care of yourself and think of for your future. And which is why, like, having 10 weeks classes is really important, because they tell you all that stuff and you learn about all this stuff and you have professionals that talk to you about it. Whereas some people, they do a quick fix, and I'm not saying that. I know on my Facebook there are good programs where you go to Mexico to do it, but I think even programs here where people have no idea, like they're like, "Oh, I take Flintstone vitamins." I'm like, "Really?" Like, like that's not the. It's
Yeah.
so easy, because there's actually like a company called Bariatric Advantage, and they make great vitamins. That's where I get all my vitamins from. It's like, just do that, and they make up the vitamin with everything you need in it. But it's really the education and doing the research and learning and constantly educating yourself and going. It's great to go on Facebook groups and share your knowledge with other people, see what other people have to say, and also see what. There's so many people say stupid stuff on there too, that I'm just like, I can't believe these people are saying this or asking these questions. It's like, makes you reaffirm, like, I did made the right decision. And I will say Kaiser was a great program to do this with. And also, because of the Kaiser, it only cost me $100 copay for the whole thing.
Mm.
Whereas some people spend tens of thousands of dollars even with insurance to do it. So
That's amazing.
mhm.
Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I have a ton of questions, but so maybe we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, sure.
If you're watching and you have questions for David, put them in the comments and David can answer them, or I can answer them, or we could come up with a whole list of questions and have David come back and do this live again. Um, before we sign off, David, is there anything that you'd like to leave people with? Anybody that's on like struggling to lose weight like you were? Do you have any words of wisdom for them, or
No, I think you need to find what's right for you and the right program for you, and like really think about it, and think of what's important for you. Is it important to eat overeat and be gluttonous and eat a lot of delicious food, but food that's not good for you, and drink and smoke, like do all these things? Or do you want to live for longer and enjoy yourself in different ways than through food? And trust me, like I enjoy food just as much as everybody else, and I still do. And it's been fun making clean food and recipes and stuff that are great, and I'm finding what you can eat and what works for you. There's a whole new world out there. There's there's good food that's not just fattening and high in cholesterol and fried and uh, with gluten and whatever.
yeah, yeah. Well, David, I really want to thank you for doing this. We appreciate you so much. I think this was a lot of help for a lot of people. And yeah, I'm grateful to have you as a friend and to have you as part of this group. And yeah, we look forward to having you back.
Next year, I hope to make your 30 days of gratitude.
Okay. You were definitely one of the friends in that included in that.
Oh, it's not working.
I can't do it either.
Thank
All right, everybody, we're gonna call this a night. And thank you for watching, and we'll see everybody real soon.
you. Lose weight.